Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, presented by Good Marketing and Wagoner Financial. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
Accessible housing has been a hot topic around Michigan and on this show for a while now, and our next guest has found a way to develop 204 units of mixed income housing in Midland, Michigan called the Dean Apartments at Eastlawn. Here to share the journey is the president of the Caddis Group, Mr. John McGraw. Welcome to the show, John.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, so for those not familiar, who is Caddis Development and what kind of projects tend to be your specialty?
So Caddis Group encompasses Caddis Development, Caddis Management, and Caddis Communities. And each one of those companies or divisions, however you want to say it, handles different things. So our development side handles our private side, our commercial side, market rate, public-private partnerships. Our management side handles pretty much everything for clients, real estate advisory. You know, if whatever somebody needs in terms of real estate, we come in and help them from a soup to nuts perspective.
Okay.
And then Caddis Communities is our mission-based affordable housing side. And so that handles everything from 40% to 120% AMI.
Got it. Okay. And you're headquartered in the greater Lansing area, but you don't just build here in mid-Michigan. Obviously, we're talking about your Midland property, which we'll get into in a sec. But you've got kind of a nationwide presence. Is that correct?
That's correct. We've developed in 8 states, from Texas to Idaho, Iowa, Florida, Ohio, Illinois, Michigan. A lot of our initial company's history started in university towns.
Okay.
So it started with student housing, then went to mixed use, to commercial mixed use, to hospitality, to industrial, to retail, lifestyle centers, single tenant, retail, office, a bunch of different things. So
got it. So not your first rodeo. You've been your organization has been pumping out the projects around the country for a long time now, huh?
We've been doing a lot. We kind of we back into solutions. So we go where we like to visit, where we would like to live ourselves.
Okay.
Where we can imagine, our wives, our families walking around safe and enjoying life. And that's how we've focused on where to develop so far.
Nice. All right. So, in my intro, I talked about, accessible housing. People listen to the show on a regular basis and know that I'm kind of bullish on trying to figure out how we can get the housing that this state needs and this region needs. So for those who haven't heard me ask this question of other people on the other side of the microphone here, why doesn't housing just build where, why doesn't supply and demand just kind of work? It's like, hey, there are a lot of people that need housing, so let's just build some units. Why don't the economics work?
The easy answer is it costs a lot and we don't make enough rents to cover that cost. To try to simplify that even more, we're looking at 3-story walk-up apartments in Michigan. Those are costing around $260,000 a unit to $350,000 a unit.
Okay, wow.
And if you look at a rule of thumb of 1/100th of that per month, you're looking at needing to get between $2,600 and $3,500 a month just to make that pencil.
To break even.
To break even.
Right. Okay. Got it.
To make those projects work. So it's just hard, and it's pricing a lot of people out of homes, which is also unfair.
Right.
Not many folks can pay $3,500 in just rent.
Right.
That's not groceries. That's not gas. That's not clothes. That's not anything else to live. And that gets into us talking about how we, rent burden folks. And,
right.
And there's nothing to do about it. We're doing our best, but the cost versus the rents, there's just a disparity.
And that same problem occurs with owner occupied, right? I mean, you can't build a $175,000 home, but that's what the public basically wants.
They
yes, right? I mean,
they want. That's human nature. I mean, we want something that actually cost $500,000, but for $175,000.
Right.
And you can build a $175,000 house, but it's 600 square feet,
right,
and it's a box.
Right.
It doesn't have a garage, and doesn't have, and
Right,
that's
right.
very small living quarters.
Right.
If you have a family, especially.
Got it. So, but there is a housing need. Michigan is trying to be an inbound population growth state. We have aging housing stock. So what have the powers that be done to try to help bridge this gap? What tools have been implemented? Yeah, I mean, we're going to get to how you got this project to actually happen. But, what are the tools that have been developed to bridge the gap in making some of these properties viable?
Well, it's interesting that you ask. Across the state, we're seeing less and less construction happen. There's few places that it is happening where rents are higher. You have university towns like Michigan State University just announced 2 other development projects potentially coming downtown East Lansing. There's Ann Arbor, then there's Grand Rapids and Detroit. And throughout all of these projects, there's brownfield, TIF, and TIF at one point was used to help kind of juice the development,
right?
And less people wanted to do it. Now TIF is absolutely needed,
right?
Pretty much everywhere.
And that's tax increment financing,
That's
basically correct. Where the developer builds what they aspire to build, and then they get a tax relief until they are made whole on, and there's usually eligible activities, right? There are things that you're required to accomplish.
And even that's increased. It used to be environmental or contamination or blighted, or I think there was 3 or 4 different things that were, maybe it was publicly owned.
Yeah.
And now they've included housing as well, housing TIF,
which is great.
Which allows for that. And tax incentive financing is a reimbursement. So essentially you pay your taxes and then you're reimbursed for whatever those eligible activities are for however many years, in that mathematical equation.
And it's tightly regulated, and it's not.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's
for good reason.
There's a lot of naysayers out there, right, who think that it's just that, the community is stroking checks to developers to, entice them to build, and that's just not the case. It's a but for this tax increment financing. It's like we're gonna pay the elevated taxes on this parcel when we develop something that is higher tax worthy after a period of time. Sure. Because if you don't do that, it's not going to happen, and the taxes on this parcel are going to be for the vacant lot or the blighted property, right? So
that's correct. That's the biggest misconception, is that if a brownfield or a TIF is approved, that the community would be paying the developer for those taxes. And in reality, it's the developer's taxes that are reimbursed back to them for the approved whatever that mathematical equation is from the eligible activities.
Right. So trying to put together a capital stack, all the monies that go into making, the Dean up in Midland possible. Is it a rigorous process? Does it require a ton of reporting and paperwork and public hearings and approvals by governmental bodies, whether it's like a MISTA or an MEDC or the city of Midland or whoever, like who all's at the table, and is it a welcoming, reasonably speedy process, or is it root canal?
well, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
No. That's fine. There's not the only reason I said it like that is there's just not an easy way to answer that. Every single community is different.
Okay.
So I would say to a blanket answer is yes, it's rigorous.
Yep.
No matter what, it's rigorous, and it should be. Because it's basically going through a qualifying process to make sure that the folks that are doing the project, they have a qualified team, they understand what they're doing, they're going to build something that they promised that they were going to build, then they're going to manage it like they promised they were going to manage it, and these homes for people turn out to be what they promised they were so that they get those incentives.
Right.
And so it's supposed to be rigorous, and that's fine. Where it gets a little dicey, I guess, sometimes, is where different communities or folks get a little scared of development.
Right.
And regardless of the reason behind that, the neighbors are usually the biggest ones behind this.
Yep.
And their fear is from stigmatic reasons. Whether it's something that they heard in the past, something they witnessed in the past, something that they lived through. whether it's a poorly managed property, whether it's a property that started off poorly managed, then became not clean, and then became dangerous.
Right.
All of these things. Let's say the worst case scenario happened. Well, these people have a right, if their home is right next to it, to question it, to be upset.
Yep.
But that's where they go first. And that's that's where it gets dicey, because nobody wants development at all.
Right.
And they still need housing. And if you ask them, they're like, yeah, of course we need housing, but not that housing.
Right. Or there.
Or there. And
you
that's
have elected
where,
officials making the decisions, so then they get a little worried when they see the population come out.
Sure.
That are the voting constituents saying,
well,
we want this.
And the people, the folks that come out, a lot of times, Midland is a great example, by the way. It had a ton of support from industry and city and the community and a ton of residents. But there were a few that were scared of it. And those few were quite loud. And they had a presence, and they made it difficult.
Yeah.
And they were scared. And a lot of that was because they were scared. And now it's my job to make sure I fulfill my promise, or our promise as River Caddis, to provide housing just as we promised.
Right on.
And housing, especially the ones that we're doing in Midland, are for a variety of different folks. I mean, they're from folks that are 25 to 65. They're, from incomes of 25,000 to 95,000. I mean, that's a whole population of people.
Right.
That's a community. That's what we are. That's what Midland is. And so, when we say we don't want that here, it's like, well,
who are you saying no to exactly?
Yeah,
it's a broad bucket.
I mean,
people.
it's everyone. It's your police officers, your bus drivers, your school teachers, your city administration. I mean, it's architects, engineers, even. So it's a whole community behind it. And again, the thing that makes it a little bit more rigorous is fear, in the biggest ways. Right. And if you were in their shoes and that's what you were thinking about, it's hard to blame them. And it's just, let's be people. Let's talk about it. Let's try to figure it out. This is our experience. This is our background. This is our reputation, even.
Right.
And that's our second development in Midland, and we've been there for 10 years, and we've got a stellar reputation downtown. We've done everything that we said we were going to do. We had a brownfield TIF as well. So
nice. Well, good. Well, I want to give a tip of the cap to our friends at Wagoner Financial. Whether you're just starting out, planning for retirement, or anywhere in between, Wagoner is there to help you make smart financial decisions. They offer comprehensive, customized planning, from investment strategies and tax solutions to insurance, accounting, and estate planning. Wagoner is dedicated to supporting you, your family, your business, and your future. Using their unique team approach and maximizing each member's specializations, they ensure that there is someone there who will have the answer to the question and is ready to help. Schedule a consultation by visiting wagoner-financial.com or give them a call at 517-853-3367. So you mentioned you've been in Midland for another project before, but let me ask you this. How did the dean get started? Did you identify that they had a housing gap that you thought you could fill? Or did the municipality maybe kind of push it out there in a master plan or some sort of we know we need housing and we're looking for developers? Like, was the parcel available and they kind of put it up and said, we would like housing here, so who's interested? RFP? I mean, how did that all start?
So it was an RFP.
Okay.
The simplest answer there. However, River Caddis, our team's been there since 2012. One of the neighboring cities to Midland is Saginaw. It's where my family's from.
Okay.
So we have a background there, which is what brought us to Midland in the first place for our 2012 development, which is a mixed-use development, a Class A office downtown called the East End development, where we still own, still operate, still manage. And so, we have a presence in Midland, and we know it quite well. We spent a lot of time there. I noticed I'm dating myself here, but I think it might have been 2019 or 20 when the Midland Public School System sent out an RFP.
Oh.
It was for the Eastlawn Elementary School, which no longer had the elementary school on it, but it was just a vacant piece of land, which turns out became another problem right immediately after that because they cleaned it all up.
Okay.
And that's funny that I said that.
Yeah, it
It's
sounds
a
like that would
problem.
be a good thing.
It does. At the time, I couldn't get a brownfield because it didn't meet the eligible activities.
Oh, okay.
Because it was a clean site. It was the first clean site in Michigan that I've ever worked on, and I was upset about it because we still had a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah.
And those incentives were important to make the deal pencil at that time. But anyway, so there was an RFP through the Midland Public School System that went out to the ether, went out to everybody.
Yep.
And we responded. We were one of 3 finalists, and we ended up winning that. I think part of that was because of our presence in Midland. Part of it was because of our plan. And at that time, which 2019, 2020, we were more focused on what we thought. I mean, it's kind of a shot in the dark too when you do an RFP, but we thought market rate housing or workforce housing would have been the play, and that was of interest to the entire area. There was still a lot of education that needed to happen, and then over the next 5 years or 4 years that took us to get to financial close, we evolved through COVID. We evolved through the economy shifting, cost increases, probably almost $100,000 a unit in those 5 years. And then that also required us to take a completely different approach where we were having more conversations with industry, like My Michigan Health was a big one. Dow was a big one, focusing on the foundations in town. What does Midland need?
Right.
Market rate housing is a need still. However, it doesn't pencil. And so we couldn't make it work. So how could we do a development that does work? And so our plan was to introduce mixed income housing, which part of the capital stack included, low income housing tax credits and other tax credits to beef up that capital stack to make the deal work, but also allowed us to go from 40% to 120%, and 120% in Midland is also market rate. It's actually above market rate.
Okay. Well, let me give a nod to our friends at Triterra since you talked about a clean site. We'll give the environmental consulting team a nod. So Triterra is a leading environmental consulting firm headquartered in Lansing, Michigan, with staff around the state to serve your brownfield development, environmental consulting, and natural resource management needs. Since 2008, Triterra has been successfully advising a wide range of organizations to implement solutions to complex environmental challenges. If you're a business, a developer, a property owner, a lending institution, an attorney, or a governmental entity looking for a solution and you want prompt and timely service, don't hesitate to call my friends at Triterra. Led by CEO and visionary Don McNabb, leaders JP Buckingham and Dave Van Haren, and supported by dozens of technical experts you can't miss by calling Triterra at 517-702-0470 or visit them at triterra.us. So you've rattled off some numbers, and so mixed income, 40% to 120% market rate. Can you give our listeners who aren't familiar with those terminologies what that exactly means?
Yeah, so the 40% to 120%, was it's based off the AMI or average median income, which is set by HUD, and it's set by county in Michigan.
Okay.
So, for example, a 40% AMI for a 1-bedroom or a studio in Midland, Michigan, or Midland County, actually, would be about $740 a month. For 120%, for a 2-bedroom, it would be $2,700 a month for rent, just to give a frame of reference.
So you basically needed to kind of earmark a certain number of these 204 units to be eligible only to people that qualify at certain strata to make sure that they're available to people that are low income, essentially, people that where there's housing that is at a certain percentage of average median income. And that unlocked some incentives that helped you make this pencil, as opposed to just saying, I'm going to build what I want and charge what I want because I believe that the community can drive this, but that still didn't pencil. So you needed to make some adjustments to get the capital stack to work.
So the average of all of the units had to be at about 60% AMI.
Okay.
Not about, it had to be.
Got it.
60% or lower.
Right.
And so we have a mix of 40%, 50%, 60%, 80%, and 120% AMI.
Got it.
And what that allowed us to do was to work with MISTA, to work with folks like Senair, also a local town, or a local company, Triterra, not part of the finance, but was also the environmental firm that we worked with on this project.
Perfect. Good.
So nod to them as well.
Good.
But MISTA, Senair allowed us to get approved for low-income housing tax credits that were allocated by the state if we hit certain metrics, and one of those metrics was to be at 60% AMI.
Got it.
On average, across the 204 units.
Got it. And so all these brownfields and the TIFs and the housing TIFs and the low-income tax credits and all that kind of stuff got you to a point where this pro forma actually worked.
Yes.
Ish.
Ish. Well, it did. We closed on it financially, but there was foundational support with grants or low interest loans that we received from another partner, a Midland Area Community Foundation. We were awarded a RAP grant, RAP 2.0 through MEDC. There was the equity from Senair. There was the bonds from MISTA and gap funding there as well. So it was a very rigorous, I'll use that word that we used before, capital stack to make this project work. But it only worked because of all of the support in Midland and the state to provide this type of housing in this location because it was actually needed that bad.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, I bring you on because I've known you for a little while, and I as a listener who is not in this ecosystem, it would be easy to just say, do something else. I mean, that seems like a lot of work. But what I like about River Caddis and you as a person is that you go through all those painful steps to deliver what the community actually needs. You listen to the community, you see what's going on. You're clearly not backing the Brinks truck up to your office because this is just automatic. I'm going to build this. I'm going to charge these rents and just make a ton of money because I'm this rich developer and all that stuff. I think there's an impression that people have that kind of mindset, and that if it's hard and you have to do all these things to make a pretty slim margin, over a long period of time, go build something else. And but you persevered and you got this done. And I think the communities need to applaud developers like you more than the immediate knee jerk is rich developer coming to try to take tax money and I got to pay more so that they can make more. And
there's always going to be stigmas.
Yeah, no, I get
everybody.
I feel good saying it out loud.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it's a different, you go to a city council meeting and you're right. That is what we get. But that's what I signed up for too.
Right.
We are developers. And we do also need to make money. But we have to do these projects, it also requires a very talented staff and a team to make this work, because this is not a one-person rodeo that I just know everything.
Right.
In fact, it's quite the opposite. We have
so I've heard.
Yeah, we have quite the staff or team that has very unique specialties.
Sure.
And that's not free either. And so putting these, this Avenger-like team together is very challenging. But it's also very rewarding because we can listen to problems. We can back into solutions. We can say, okay, we met with this mayor or this dean or this hospital executive and say, okay, this is what they're trying to solve for. Can we do it? Can we do it in this location? Can we do it in that? What are our barriers to entry? Where are we falling short? What type of capital stack do we need to put together? And it's very hard. But it's also very fun.
Right.
Depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, right.
Looking back, it is. We're all like, sweating.
Makes a ton of sense. So, all right, we're recording this in early December of 2025. I know the ground has been broken, which is kind of what prompted me to have you come in. So things are happening. Earth is moving. Nails are being hammered. Talk to us about timeline. When do you expect to, you have 204 units coming online. Is that a 24-month, 18-month, 12-month? How long is it going to take for you to start leasing these up?
Well, they're going to come online at different times. And so we should have our first round, roughly about 10 months after we started. And so we're looking at fall, summer of 26 to actually have people occupy.
Nice.
We'll have our clubhouse done, and then we'll also have some units done at that time, and then we'll start backing down the buildings. All of the foundations are poured, all of the floors have been poured
Nice.
already, and so we're trucking. But I would say the total construction timeline is between 16 and 18 months.
That's fantastic. That's fast moving. Good for you.
Yeah, we need to get them in there.
Right. Yeah. So yeah,
They need housing.
Right. Exactly. No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, again, John, I appreciate you coming in here. We've been speaking to the president of the River Caddis Group about their fantastic new 204 unit mixed use housing project up in Midland, Michigan, called the Dean Apartments at Eastlawn. Great story. Congratulations. I'm really excited for you and your team, and for all the people that are going to have a great place to live, because it's really a walkable area too, right? They'll have access to kind of downtown area in the ballpark and all that stuff. Is it in
It's
that
right
neck
downtown.
of the woods, which is fantastic.
It's walkable, right? And it's actually attached to the Midland Community Center, which is like a YMCA.
Yeah.
They just put $90 million into that thing. It's gorgeous. It also has huge parks right next door. It has pickleball courts next door already that are for the public. So it's incredibly walkable. It's beautiful. I mean, it's in the middle of a neighborhood. It used to be a school, hence Dean.
Yeah, right.
It's one of the reasons why it was named Dean.
Awesome.
So,
Well, congratulations and all the best to you, John. Thanks for joining me here today.
thanks, Chris.
All right. And I'd like to give a final shout out to all the loyal sponsors: Wagoner Financial, Good Marketing, Triterra Environmental, Keller Williams Advantage and Team, Michigan Rise, Kirk Byron State Farm, and the attorneys at Foster Swift. All great people doing awesome work. And if you found the show as a one-off, I want to remind you to follow and subscribe to Michigan Reimagined on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and anywhere else you find your podcasts. This is Chris Buck signing off for Michigan Reimagined.